The content discussed in this video is presented strictly for the purposes of commentary, criticism, and review. All copyrighted materials referenced are used under the doctrine of fair use, as outlined in Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. This channel does not claim ownership of any third-party works discussed. Views expressed are analytical, not personal endorsements of the material. The goal here is analysis and critique. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's get into it.
I want to start today by asking you to do something a little bit different.
Okay, I am intrigued.
I want you to try a quick visualization exercise with me, just for a second. Wherever you are, unless you were driving, obviously, close your eyes.
Yeah, please keep them open if you are behind the wheel.
Right, exactly. Safety first. Now imagine you are standing outside on a clear, crisp, pitch-black night. You look up and you see the Milky Way. You see thousands of stars, that vast, glittering canopy stretching from horizon to horizon. Now be honest with yourself. How does that make you feel? Small, odd. Do you see this beautiful, jeweled masterpiece?
I mean, I think most of us would say yes, absolutely. It is the standard romantic view of the cosmos, right? Nature is beautiful, the universe is grand. We feel this sense of wonder.
Right, and this is the core of what we are doing today. If you were a Gnostic living in Egypt or Syria, say, 2,000 years ago, you wouldn't see beauty. You would look up at that exact same night sky, and you wouldn't see a masterpiece. You would see a prison wall.
Which is such a striking and honestly terrifying shift in perspective.
It really is. You are looking at the stars and seeing the bars of a cell.
It is actually even worse than that. They saw this black iron lid clamp down over the earth. And those stars, they didn't think they were suns. They called them incandescent pores.
Incandescent pores.
Right, like they are just tiny holes in this perforated veil, barely letting in the light from a real and much better world that has been locked away from us.
So welcome to the Book Dive. Today we are exploring a worldview that is basically the matrix of the ancient world, but somehow even darker and much, much stranger. We are looking at the Gnostics.
Specifically, we are looking at them through the lens of the French writer Jacques Lacan. He refers to these people as mutant thinkers.
Mutant thinkers, I love that phrase.
It is perfect for what we are about to discuss, because these were not just your standard religious heretics who disagreed on a few verses of scripture or how to baptize someone. They were rebels who looked at reality itself, biology, gravity, society, the very ground we walk on, and said, this entire system is a mistake.
It implies they evolved something totally new, or maybe something dangerous. So before we get into the really wild stuff, and let me warn you, we have snake cults, ancient communism, and some very intense biological rituals coming up. We need to ground this. Who exactly are we talking about here?
Well, we are talking about a pretty loose collection of sects flourishing roughly between the 2nd and 4th centuries AD. We are in places like Egypt, Palestine, Syria.
Right, in the cradle of all these major religions.
Exactly. They were rubbing shoulders with early Christians, Jews, and pagans in the marketplaces. But while the early Christians were trying to build a church and ultimately save the world, the Gnostics were trying to escape it.
And I think this comes down to their fundamental origin story, right? Because most religions basically say God created the world and it was good, or at least it was meant to be good. But the Gnostics said, well, not so much.
No, not at all. This is the core key insight you have to grasp to understand literally anything else they did. In Gnosticism, the creator of this world, the one who made mosquitoes and cancer and gravity and time, is not the true God.
Which is the part that feels like straight-up science fiction to me. They believe there are two gods.
At least two. There is the true God, who they called the alien God or the unknown Father. Sometimes they even called him He Who Is Not.
Because he is so far beyond our understanding of existence.
Exactly. This true God resides in the Pleroma. You can think of it as this hyper-world of pure light, totally separate from our messy physical reality. And then there is the guy who built this place.
The Demiurge.
The Demiurge. Sometimes they identified him with Jehovah of the Old Testament.
But they absolutely didn't see him as a loving father figure.
Far from it. They viewed the Demiurge as basically a cosmic policeman, a jealous, bungling, middle management deity who really doesn't know what he is doing.
Just totally incompetent.
Or malicious. He wanted to create something divine, but he messed it up. He took pure spirits, which is us, and trapped them inside heavy, gross matter.
So in their view, we are essentially living in a botched construction project.
Precisely. It is a failed work. And honestly, this perfectly explains the problem of evil for them. You know, why is there suffering? Why do children die? Why is nature so cruel?
Because the traditional believer has to say, it is a mystery, or it is part of God's plan.
Right, and the Gnostic says, no, it is not a mysterious plan. The architect was just incompetent.
That is actually a weirdly comforting logic in a really dark way. It solves the riddle, but it also leads to this intense hatred of the physical world. I was reading in the source material about their absolute obsession with weight.
Oh, it is a huge theme for them. To a Gnostic, matter is the ultimate enemy. It is heavy, it is cold, and it constantly tends toward entropy. It slows everything down.
While the true spirit is light and fiery.
Right, weightless. But here we are encased in these heavy meat suits stuck on a planet with heavy gravity. That is why they thought the sky was a circle of dark fire. It is literally a wall of shadow keeping us weighed down.
Okay, let's unpack this meat suit idea. Because their anthropology, their explanation of what a human being actually is honestly horrifying. It is basically body horror.
It really is. They called humans pseudanthropes.
Counterfeit men.
Counterfeit men. The text described this scenario where the demiurge and his minions, who they called the archons, tried to copy the image of the true God. They saw a reflection of the divine somehow and thought, we want to make that.
But because they were flawed creators, they couldn't get it right.
Exactly. They built this creature out of mud and matter, but it was so poorly made it couldn't even stand up.
The source material says it wriggled like a worm.
That is such a visceral, disturbing image.
Just a mudworm writhing on the ground. Totally pathetic. You can just imagine the archons standing around looking at this thing, scratching their heads.
It is a massive blow to the ego. We are not the pinnacle of creation. We are a failed experiment.
Well, we were, until the true God, the alien God, way up in the hyperworld, took pity on this pathetic creature. He actually engaged in a bit of sabotage against the demiurge.
He breathed a spark into the worm.
Yes, that divine spark allowed man to stand upright and to speak.
So we are rectified worms. We are premature births trapped in bodies that are essentially tombs. But we are carrying this high-voltage spark of divinity that absolutely does not belong here.
And the demiurge is furious about it.
Because now the thing he created has something he doesn't have, a piece of the true light.
Which sets up the whole game. The mission of the Gnostic isn't to be a good person so you can go to heaven. It's a jailbreak. You have to realize you have the spark and figure out how to smuggle it past the guards.
Exactly. Salvation is not moral, it is technical. It is about knowledge, gnosis, remembering who you are so you can escape.
So if we are stuck in this prison, who is the first guy to try and break out? The history books usually point to a character who sounds more like a comic book villain than a saint, Simon Magus.
Simon is a fascinating figure. The church fathers actually call him the father of all heresies. He preached in Samaria, effectively competing with the apostles.
And I think a lot of people might know the term simony, which means buying church influence.
Right, paying for a promotion in the church.
That comes from an anecdote in the book of Acts, where Simon Magus tried to write a check to the apostles to buy the ability to impart the Holy Spirit. He basically walked up and said, "How much for the magic trick?"
Which obviously makes him sound like a charlatan, just a grifter.
Yeah.
But that is how his enemies painted him. When you look at his actual theology, it gets really deep. He had this absolute obsession with fire. He taught that fire is the unifying force of the universe, the root of everything.
But for him, this divine fire wasn't just abstract physics, right? It was directly connected to desire.
Yes, and this is where his traveling companion comes in, because he didn't travel alone.
No, he traveled with a woman named Helen. And this wasn't just a girlfriend or a regular disciple. Helen was a former prostitute he found in a brothel in Tyre.
Which is a bold PR move for a holy man in the ancient world.
Here is my savior complex, and here is my partner.
But see, Simon didn't see a prostitute. He claimed she was the fallen divine wisdom, or Sophia. The idea was that wisdom had fallen from the high heavens and been trapped in the cycle of reincarnation, degraded body after body, fighting through the mud of history until she ended up in the lowest place possible.
A brothel.
A brothel. And Simon claimed he was the manifestation of God, who had come down specifically to find her and rescue her.
That is quite the romance. But it wasn't just a love story. It was a massive theological statement.
It was a radical theology of desire. Simon taught that salvation comes through the union of the couple. Thou and I are one. He believed that by breaking down the barrier between I and the couple, you break the separation that the demiurge created.
So sex isn't just biology to them. It is a way to fuse the broken pieces of the universe back together.
Precisely. For Simon, sexual desire and the reproductive fluids were actual physical carriers of that divine fire. It is a way of saying we will use the very desire the Creator put in us to escape his trap. It elevates human connection to something that can shatter the prison walls.
That is a theme that seems to keep coming up, taking the rules of the world and just flipping them completely upside down. Which brings us to an even more radical figure. If Simon Magus was the magician, this next guy was the revolutionary, Carpocrates.
Carpocrates and his son Epiphanes. And we really have to talk about Epiphanes because he was a boy genius. He died at 17, but he left behind this treatise called On Justice that reads like a manifesto for total communism.
Communism in the 2nd century? That seems a bit ahead of schedule.
It is strikingly similar, though. Epiphanes looked at nature to find God's will. He said, "Look at the sun. God's justice is like the sun. It shines on the rich and the poor equally. It doesn't partition its light. It doesn't say, this ray is mine and that ray is yours."
So he argued that human laws that create private property, laws that say this is mine, are actually unnatural.
He called them outright thefts. He said the very idea of private property is a violation of the divine order. But, and here's where he loses most people, he didn't stop at property. He extended this to marriage.
Right, because a wife was legally considered property in the ancient world.
Exactly. He argued that the command, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife," is absurd, because it tries to restrict a desire that nature itself implanted. If the Creator put the desire there, why is he punishing you for feeling it?
So the Carpocratian conclusion was total sharing. Goods, property, and spouses. No boundaries whatsoever.
A total rejection of social norms.
But they had this other concept that I found even wilder when I was reading the sources. Homeopathic asceticism. Usually ascetics, like monks or holy men, they try to avoid sin.
Yeah.
They fast, they abstain. These guys seem to lean all the way into it.
It is a wild paradox, but you have to follow their logic. They believe the soul is forced to reincarnate until it has experienced absolutely everything. You have a debt to pay to the archons, the rulers of this world. If you leave this life having missed out on some experience, even a deeply sinful one, you have to come back to do it.
You have to consume evil to get rid of it, like building up an immunity.
Or like checking items off a cosmic bucket list. You sin not for the pleasure of it, but as a rigorous duty. You are checking boxes. They wanted to make death die by exhausting every single possibility the material world offered.
If you do it all now, you don't have to come back later.
Exactly.
That is a very convenient theology for a teenager, I have to say. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to this party. It is for my salvation.
It is extremely convenient. But if you accept their underlying premise that the world is a finite trap, it is terrorizingly logical. You literally have to eat your way out of the prison.
Now, speaking of flipping the script, we have to talk about the snake. In standard religion, the snake in Eden is the bad guy. He is the deceiver. But the Gnostics started a fan club for him.
The Ophites and the Peritae. These were sects that actively worshipped the serpent. And again, follow the logic. If the Creator God, the one who said, "Do not eat from the tree of knowledge," is actually a jealous jailer trying to keep humans stupid,
then who is the hero of this story?
Right.
The one who tells them to eat, the snake.
The snake becomes the absolute liberator. The snake brought gnosis, knowledge. The Ophites saw the snake as the messenger of the true alien God, breaking into the prison to wake up Adam and Eve.
They even had anatomy theories about this, didn't they? They weren't just talking about metaphor.
No, they mapped it entirely onto the physical body. They saw the human intestine as a serpent coiled within the man, and they saw the wind, or the spirit, as a winged serpent. They even had a ritual called the Eucharist of the serpent.
Walk us through that, because I need to picture this.
Well, according to the heresy hunters of the time, they would keep a tame snake in a basket. During their service, they would remove the lid, sing to it, and let it crawl out and slither directly over the loaves of bread.
To consecrate them.
Yes, the snake's physical touch made the bread holy. Then they would break the bread and eat it.
Talk about a communion service that would clear out a modern church in about 5 seconds.
Absolutely. But this inversion isn't just to be edgy. It is a total absolute rejection of the authority of the material world. It is looking at the good guy of the Bible and saying, "I judge you to be the bad guy."
It is basically conspiracy theory thinking applied to the entire universe. Everything you have been told is a lie.
Right.
But there were sects that took this physical interaction with the divine even further. We need to discuss the so-called licentious sects, the Barbalognostics, and the Fibionites.
This is the part of the source material that gets quite graphic.
And we should be very clear right here for the listener. We are strictly reporting what these ancient source texts claim. We are not endorsing any of this. We are just looking at the theology they laid out.
Completely. And the church fathers were horrified by these groups. But these groups had a theology of fluids that is intense.
It is. And it is easy to just dismiss it as pure perversion. But they had a specific mechanic for it, right? It wasn't just for fun.
No, it was deadly, serious, sacred work to them. These sects believed that the divine power or the light was physically trapped in human reproductive fluids, specifically sperm and menses.
Okay.
They believed that if you procreate, if you have a child, you are trapping that light in yet another prison of flesh. You are actively serving the Demiurge's plan to keep the light locked down.
So their goal was to gather this light instead?
Yes, they viewed their own bodies as extraction machines. Their rituals involved collecting these fluids. Coitus interruptus was mandatory because conception was seen as a tragedy, a total failure.
And then they would consume these fluids as a form of communion.
Exactly. Consuming the light to return it to the source. Saint Epiphanius was a church father who actually infiltrated one of these groups, and he describes these agapes or love feasts. He was deeply traumatized by it.
I can imagine.
But to the Gnostic, this was a desperate rescue mission. They were trying to dry up the river of generation. They wanted to take the sparks of potential life and send them back up to the Father, rather than letting them fall into the mud of the world to create more suffering.
It is a profound refusal of biology itself, which actually brings us to another group that refused something else entirely: work. Let's talk about the Massalians.
The praying men, or as their critics love to call them, the lazy men. This is a slightly later sect. They believe that every single human being has a literal demon living inside them, physically attached to their soul.
Like a parasite.
A spiritual parasite, a roommate you just cannot get rid of. And they believed the sacraments of the church couldn't get this demon out. Baptism. Useless.
Work.
A distraction. The only thing that worked was perpetual prayer. They would loop the Lord's Prayer over and over again, inducing a trance state, trying to literally spit out the demon.
And because they had to pray 24/7, they completely refused to work.
They slept in the streets. Men and women huddled together in heaps on the pavement. They claimed total indifference to the world. And they were notoriously slippery when the authorities tried to pin them down.
I love the interrogation transcript we have in this source for them. It is hilarious. The bishops would ask them, "Are you a prophet?" They would say, "Yes." "Are you a patriarch?" "Yes." "Are you Christ?" "Yes."
They would agree to anything. It wasn't that they actually believed they were Christ. They just wanted the bishops to shut up and go away so they could go back to sleep and pray.
It was a form of passive resistance.
Exactly. By agreeing to everything, they validated nothing. They just wanted to be left alone to fight their internal war against the demon.
So looking at this whole picture, we have snake worshippers, fluid consumers, lazy praying men, space aliens. Eventually the empire struck back, right? This movement didn't survive.
Not as an organized religion, no. The persecution was absolutely brutal. Books were burned by the thousands. Later, groups that carried this torch, like the Cathars in France or the Bogomils in Bosnia, were wiped out in crusades and massacres.
They were just too threatening.
The Gnostic view was simply too dangerous to the established order. You cannot run an empire if your subjects fundamentally believe the world is a mistake and the king is a servant of a demon.
But the philosophy itself, that didn't burn?
No. The core feeling of Gnosticism is something that never really goes away. Le Carrière argues it is a permanent part of the human psyche. It is that feeling of being a stranger.
The alien feeling.
The Greeks had a word, autochthon, meaning someone born of the soil and native, like a plant popping out of the earth. The Gnostic position is, I am not an Aeodochthon of this earth. I am an Aeodochthon of a completely different world.
I am in the world, but not of the world.
Exactly. And think about how modern that feels today. When you look at the news, at the injustice, at the sheer absurdity of existence, and you ask, why is this happening? Why is there evil?
The Gnostic answers, because the system is broken.
They refuse to accept that evil is part of some mysterious good plan. They say, no, this is wrong, and I do not belong here.
It is the ultimate rebellion. It is not just rebelling against a king or a government. It is rebelling against the universe itself.
It is the absolute refusal to cooperate with a reality that you find unjust. They were mutant thinkers who tried to decondition themselves from biology, from society, from history. They wanted to strip everything away, the meat, suit the laws, the gravity, just to find that one indestructible spark.
There is an image from the source that I really want to end on. We started the show with the stars as holes in the sky, but the Gnostics also looked at the human eye.
Yes, They saw the pupil of the eye as a breach. Just like the stars or holes in the dark canopy of the sky, the pupil is a hole in the physical body where the internal light meets the external darkness.
Is the meeting point of the two worlds.
Exactly.
It really makes you think. If the world actually is a failed work full of injustice, as they claimed, is that spark of refusal inside you just a madness? Or is it the only sane reaction to an insane world?
That is the big question they leave us with, and it is certainly a question that keeps you awake at night.
Thanks for book diving with us today.
Until next time.
If this made you think, leave a comment. If you want more, hit subscribe. If you just liked it, well, there's a button for that too. See you between the pages.